Joyce, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Where are you located?
London.
Oh, excellent, excellent. You're going to tackle a very interesting topic that I'm personally very interested in as well. Content briefs, very important part of an SEO strategy. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself before we dive into the presentation here?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Rejoice. I am an SEO specialist and content strategist. Been doing SEO for about 5 years. And also the co-founder of Be Digital UK. I mostly specialize in like content optimizations and sort of looking at expertise within diversity and inclusion and all of those great things.
All right, excellent. Let's dive into your presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll be talking about how to SEO optimize your content briefs, mostly looking at the best possible ways for your content briefs to sort of adhere to SEO best practices, just so that we are giving our freelancers, our copywriters a great chance to write quality content. Um, so essentially, the objectives for today is to learn what a content brief is and why is it needed and what's important, and also to highlight the different elements that we can actually add into our content briefs to again reinforce to copywriters or even to the clients that these are the things we're going to cover, and sort of sharing where we're utilizing keywords, and again have some tips left over for how to work well with freelancers and copywriters, and as well any other tips that we need to be thinking about when we're creating those content briefs. So we're going to start the what. Essentially, what is a content brief? So according to use topic, a content brief is essentially a document that allows you to communicate with your writers about the topic or what you want them to sort of produce. It helps them understand what you want from them out of the content, and how you want it to be done. So highlighting the different areas that you want them to sort of either change or create or add to, all of those things. So the reason why a content brief is needed, because again, we don't want to be spending our time with a lot of back and forth with our copywriters, or whether it's internal or external. We want to be able to approach SEO in a proper manner, and without content briefs, we open ourselves to kind of have that incorrect approach towards SEO, and therefore having to edit the content so heavily. It should be a seamless process. And having that content brief, it doesn't allow the room for misunderstandings. Your writers are able to know exactly what you're trying to get out of this, exactly the approach you're trying to take, and really and truly why, and the purpose of creating this content and what it's going to be used for. So, what makes a content brief SEO focused? So, essentially, it creates this unique goal for us to sort of instruct our content using a targeted and specific search query. A lot of times, the briefs will be sort of wrapped around one particular query that we're trying to sort of create, and from that, we can definitely start building onto topic clusters or query clusters for us to have a better understanding. But essentially, making it SEO focused allows us to ensure that we are either targeting the right intent, creating content that fits the right consumer journey that our users are found in. So, what are the benefits, and why should we really care to make our content briefs SEO focused? And one of the reasons being is that it can minimize our costings. So you don't want to spend a lot of time paying for revisions over and over again because it wasn't clearly communicated that there needs to be an SEO focus onto it. Again, it helps improve search rankings because we are making the content very user centric, very user focused, by ensuring that we're hitting that right intent. As I said earlier, we are increasing consistency. So over time, if you're working with long-term freelancers or you have a long-term in-house copywriters, they will start to understand the standards used. So there'll be consistency in how we're producing content, consistency in how that content is being laid out, how that content is sort of being looked at, and consistency in thinking forward and thinking about SEO. And it allows us to hit deadlines on time because we have our briefs. Our briefs should be clear and very concise. We can hit the deadlines. We minimize, again, that back and forth, so we can spend our time editing and just sort of making sure it's right. It's, the reading is right. It's, the language used, the tone of voice are all met. All of those things that we need to do, the checks we need to do afterwards, gets done quicker because we have that content brief that reinforce that SEO. It also allows us to educate writers and our clients. Sometimes writers are not SEO savvy, so it allows them to sort of learn in terms of SEO and educate why this particular content should be attributed to a particular intent based on the keywords. It allows us to create scalable formats. So again, a lot of website, a lot of clients, the way that in which they built their blog pages or whether it's their product pages, have a particular template. So if we're having or creating content briefs that follows a certain formats, we can scale it up. We don't have to constantly having to produce or find new formats for particular blogs. It's perfectly fine to have a particular content brief template for several type of formatting that the website has or the website structure is made on. It also instantly deduplicate anything that we do. So again, because the content briefs is aligned to a certain topic, aligned to a certain intent or consumer journey, we're not duplicating content. So we are always remembering, always knowing what content we've produced and for what purpose we've produced it. And it's always useful to sort of, again, having a very organized sort of content bank that you can go to and ensure that these are the topics that we have created, especially when within that content brief we have the article title or the meta title and description. That way we're ensuring that we're not actually regurgitating the same meta title and meta description. And again, faster delivery. A lot of the freelancers prefer very concise briefs. They can get straight to it. They know exactly what to use, what internal links we're trying to use, the tone of voice, of the approximation of words to use, and they can deliver it much faster. Again, we're hitting that deadline quite early. So we've all heard about the Google quality content, but in a very cool way, it does apply to content briefs, and I think we have to consider content briefs into quality content. Now, John Mueller talks about quality content not just being about the text of your articles, but is really about the overall site, and that can include from anything from layout and design, and how we're presenting our page, and or the images that we're using. But when we talk about quality content, people assume that we're only talking about content that follows the EAT algorithm. But really and truly, we should be focusing on layout, design, imagery, and page speed. But then the question is, okay, so knowing all of this, how does this then apply to content briefs? And what should we take away from this when we're trying to create the content briefs? Like we said earlier, it is more about, it's more to do from the text. It's about layout. And sometimes layouts can be layouts in which we have laid our website. And also, if you're creating blogs, the layout of the blogs, the layout in the formatting, the readability of all of these things, these add to the quality content. So when we're talking about quality content, we're going to have to talk about quality content briefs. And the reason being is that your quality content briefs, or the briefs in itself, should be helpful. It should be useful to the reader. So they should be able to know when you're writing that brief, you should always ask yourself, will this brief, when written, will it answer the intent of the user? Does it actually follow what the user wants to know, wants to see? Is it factual? Do you have some facts in there? Do you have some citations that you want to inform your writer that include the citation and here is the link for it? Do you have some figures that you want to quote, again, that you're informing in your content briefs? And again, how is the content briefs, how does it show that it's interesting? How does this topic allude to interest when we're talking about our users? And is it authentic? Are we using the right tone of voice? Is it an informal content brief that you're trying to create? Is it a technical? And how are we breaking that down? Again, we have to think about it being user centric. When you're creating the content brief, you should create it in the sense of, if you're the reader and you're going through this, when it's written, does this take you in mind? Does it take you into consideration? Does the flow of the content briefs, does it make sense to you? Is it comprehensive? So have you make sure that content brief has every information the writer will need to know that is important to the users and also important to the writer as well. And how original is it? Are you talking about an original topic? Is a content brief going to highlight an original article? Even if you are sort of, it is a very known or famous topic, how have you made it unique to your brand or unique to the client? How have you made this content different to what is out there? And is it relevant? The relevancy is down to the keywords you're using, the keywords you're targeting. How is the base of the content relevant to the targeted keyword or the description or the intent? All of these things are what we should be thinking about when we're thinking of quality content. We have to be thinking about these sort of categories to ensure our briefs follow suit. Now we're going to go into the how. So how do we actually create this? What are the elements that we need to add, we need to join together when we're creating content briefs? Well, we know all of these information that we need to include. We need to include our meta title, our meta description, our external or internal links. We need to consider the format and the outline, and so many things, even down to the word count. And all of this I will break it down into what type of elements or what questions we should be asking when we're creating that content briefs to ensure those things are right. So let's start with keyword and search intent. So search intent is you want to communicate the type of interaction the user is likely looking for. So it can be informational, it can be transactional, commercial in nature. So you need to understand for this content brief or the content that we're looking to create, what is the intent that we want, that we think the user actually wants to find out based on this keyword that we're going to use or based on the topic that we're going to discuss. From there, you can now look at what keywords going to use. Again, the main goal of SEO content, it is to rank, but it also is to ensure that our users feel heard, feel listened to, and you do want to drive organic traffic. We cannot forget the purpose of displaying web content online. You want to make sure that keyword is relevant, and don't be afraid to add in a secondary keywords that tells your writer, this is the targeted keyword we want to use, but here are a few more that are aligned with the topic and are aligned with the overarching targeted keyword that we want to use. Have a section or create a mini table that calls out title, meta title, keywords, secondary keywords, just so that when your writers are going into the briefs, they are already aware of the line of thinking that you're going down in. So for title tags and meta description, this again should also inform intent in its own way. It's basically you're previewing how search engines or searchers will see it listed within search engines. So again, you do want to tell your writers that this is the meta title and description that we're going for, because what they can use that as a cue in terms of tone of voice, in terms of the expectations or the briefing about what this content is going to be about. And don't forget that it needs to still meet SEO best practices. So following the character lengths and all of those things. And it is okay to put in the character length within the brief. Again, the purpose of content briefs is we're also trying to educate our copywriters just so that we create this habit of SEO focused content, again, to make sure that we're having consistency. So competitor examples. Now, when I used to sort of write content briefs, I would always add in competitor examples, just to sort of inform the writer that, hey, this is a competitor that basically has the same thinking that we're having for our blogs. It could be based on format, it could be based on tone of voice, or it could be based on the level of detail that has gone into it. So it's absolutely okay to show the competitor examples that use this as a reference. Refer to articles that already rank for your targeted keywords, and that's a good way you need to do. So take your targeted keywords, put it into a search engine, and copy the top three and refer to it, refer to your writers and say they already ranked for it, following the level of detail or the outline or the tone of voice. We want to sort of mimic that, but ensure we are adding original and authentic value in our own way. And then you want to ask yourself, how can you make your piece more valuable? Again, it's not about regurgitating what others have done, but it's about showing your uniqueness. What is so different about the content you're going to write? What additional information are you going to give them? Add that into the content brief. Now, internal and external links are super, super important. Again, what's great about content briefs is, and I do suggest this, is if you are working quite closely with the digital PR team, for example, and they have done publications or they have acquired links that your client or your brand was mentioned in, and you are now creating a content that is very much similar to what that PR campaign was about, you can speak to your digital PR team and acquire those external links just so you can reference them within the article that you're creating or reference them within the content briefs. And that's a good way for, again, to sort of create synergy between the two teams and work quite well together. And maybe you can share external links and bank that you can utilize and, maybe categorize it by theme. So when you're creating that content briefs, you can always remember, oh, we have a digital PR campaign that we've secured a link for. Maybe we can use that as an external link. And the whole point of sort of creating external links is you want to build out authority that supports the information that you're using. So this is why I said, having a factual stats, citations, adding it into your content briefs allows your writer to use it as a referencing point to support your topic relevancy, your authority of that information. And by sharing it, the resources with your readers as well, it's similar like going back to school and writing an essay when you have to sort of call out all the citations and the references you've used. Sometimes with quite technical pieces or technical content briefs, we need to do that. We need to make sure that we're seen as authority, especially if you're within the your money, your life type of companies, or you're writing for those type of information or content. Calling out the resources that you're using to get the information from or adding citations, they go a long way. And if we want that, we need to add that to the content briefs. When it comes to internal linking, again, focus on relevancy. Focus on what is relevant within your site that we can add to it. If you're an e-commerce page and you sell, I don't know, makeup, and you're talking about Christmas, if you have a category that talks about red lipstick, get that category link, add that as an internal link. It's building the relevancy, or it's building the information for the client, or the users, so they can see how linked the whole content is. And adding a section for internal, external links, again, your writers or freelancers will greatly appreciate it. So suggested word count and CTAs. So word count, just basically saying how long this blog post would be, but I would emphasize going a bit further. If you're splitting it out into, for the H1, the mini paragraph here, and there's a mini paragraph after the H2, I would, for each paragraph, maybe call out the word count there for each paragraph. So, the first paragraph, should it be 500 words, 400 words? Again, giving your writers more guidance will allow them to be a lot more specific in how they're writing. So check out what your competitors are doing. There is a really cool a Chrome extension tool. When I'm doing competitors research, it's called Word Count Plus, and basically allows you to copy the entire site and kind of gauge the word count. It displays the word count, so you can kind of see, okay, here's a rough amount, just so you have a baseline to work with. It also gives ideas in terms of costings. So if you're going to work with a freelancer and they charge per wording or they charge per word, it gives you an idea of the cost, so you can plan ahead and budget accordingly. And ideally, it should also start to indicate the length of the topic. So certain topics will require a longer word count and other topics won't. So having that word count there can help you kind of reinforce that habit over time. And most importantly, call to actions. So call to actions are quite unique because they allow a really great balance in terms of whether we're targeting transactional keywords. Do you want your users to book now? or inquire or explore more. All of these things are call to actions, and there's different ways you could have a call to action. It makes you think about, what do you want your user to do with this information? What action do you want them to take? And also, realistically, what actions do you think they're going to take or they're willing to take? So if, for example, you are creating a blog that is based around the awareness life cycle, most likely you wouldn't use a book now, because you understand your users are there to learn more information. They're not ready to purchase. But if you are creating a content brief for a article that reinforces, purchase or post purchase or decision making, then the kind of CTAs to use is whether it's book now, buy now, all of these things. So again, you can start to sort of know and see where it's appropriate to add a call to action. And adding it to the brief helps be more realistic about your buyer's journey. Formatting and outline, this is very useful. I think how you format and outline anything, because again, some blogs are formatted really wrong, but the information is great. But because the formatting is weird, users can be quite put off. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to ensure your content briefs are formatted exactly the way you would want it to be formatted once it's written out. So the outline can be as detailed as simply requiring them to fill in the gaps between the headers and subheaders. So that's essentially what I do. So when I'm creating a brief about an article that I want to be written, if we take in something like I don't know, a beauty brand, I would have a H1, I would have a H2, and then underneath it I might have an H3, and I'll actually add in the headings, the titles that I want them to sort of use. Again, this should go with the research. Look at how your competitors are formatting what they're doing, and how the outline is. So the outline sort of dispels any fears of blank pages being created or random works being put in. It kind of gives the reader, or gives the writer, a good skeleton in how you want it to look. And that goes for the structuring of the content, where you want them to input the keywords. Sometimes I will go as far as, per section, I would say, for this section, can we target the keyword, and you write whatever keywords you want. For this section, can we ensure this internal link is added, and go as further to say, can an anchor text of be added here? So little things, you're informing them what anchor text to use, what head internal link to use within that formatting. So now that we understand what goes into SEO content briefs, we're going to talk about a few tips here and there that you can take away with you. So essentially, keywords are great. So we know that the algorithm but allows us to understand semantics behind any search queries. So don't forget your keywords in your briefs as well. It's great if you want to add a section in the beginning of your briefs to call out the audience. If you understand the different audience of your brand or your clients, whether they are homeowners, whether they are young people, call it out. Tell the writer in your content briefs, our audience are young people between the age of this and that. That will help you reinforce the language, the tone of voice, the topics, or the structuring of it. Again, it's very important to understand the persona of the person you're trying to write for. Again, outline is also fine to include H1s and H2s. Like I said earlier, call out which title is a H1, call out which title is a H2, and point out within each section where you will want an asset, an image to be added. And if you're also sending this to a client, maybe highlight that particular area where you're asking them for an asset, highlight in a different color. So once the client sees it, they know where that asset will be added, and they know what asset is needed. So you can absolutely write, we need an image of X, this hairstyle or that hairstyle, of this person, that person. Just be as clear as you can. Links, so list out any URLs on the sites that mention your topic. Again, it's very good to have a balance between internal links, being maybe category pages, and also informational content. So we want to be going back to, does this fit the theme of previous blogs that this brand, the client has written before? If so, let's find those relevant links and add it into it. Subtopics. So ensure the writers covers every subtopic. What I like to do within my briefs is before I start doing the structuring, I'll add a section in terms of questions. And then I will type in the kind of questions I sort of want the blog to answer in a way that I think would be quite useful. So the writer would know, okay, these are the kind of questions that we need this information, we need this content to answer that is relevant to the overarching topic. And think about your funnel stage. If you're B2B and you're writing about the awareness stage, or within the awareness stage, when you're creating your content brief, think about the tofu, the mofu, and the bofu, and that will help you categorize all your keywords. So then you understand where you're putting what keyword makes sense, the type of pages we need to link to, and all of those things. So this is just what you have to avoid. Avoid suggestions after the fact, because again, if you are paying per word, any revisions could cost you. So make sure your content briefs are concise, are clear. Of course, questions can be asked here and there, but suggestions of changes, just avoid it. Again, it elongates the timings. Don't always focus on high search volume, because sometimes the lower search volumes tends to be more long tail queries and they have a more obvious intent. So mix and match from high to low, always. And it's fine to maybe have a section that explains your rationale, just so your clients or your freelancers could understand your rationale behind creating this content. Tools are good, but not perfect. So great tools that you can use to sort of help you in terms of looking how to structure your brief. SEMrush has a great topic tool. ClearScope has a great content briefs tool. Any tool that allows you to look at topic relevancies or topic clusters, those tools are great. And those tools are really, really good to use. SE Ranking has a great keyword tool that you can see what's ranking for your site, what's ranking for particular page or particular landing page that you need to maybe repurpose the content for or create new content for. Involve your content team. So if you're an SEO person, you have a separate content marketing team, involve them, bring them into that planning process, so that they can understand these are what the content you're creating, understand why you're creating it. So again, you're adding that educational factor. As SEOs and people who do love SEO, we want to keep educating people SEO. It makes our jobs a lot easier if people already understand SEO. Don't hold back in showing results. So once you sort of create that content brief and you send it out and you see great results from that content being produced, share it with the content team, because again, it gives you more of a credibility as to why this process of creating SEO focused content briefs is needed. And people love to see results, people love to brag, so why not? And as well, when you're involving the content briefs content team, respect their knowledge. Yes, we're SEOs, but if they have a process that you can create a synergy with, respect their knowledge, respect what they know about consumer behavior or consumer needs or brand strategy. Respect all of those, because we're going to need that insight just so we can understand much better how to sort of prepare our content briefs. And that's me. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Rejoice, thank you so much, man. If everybody would follow your advice, the world would be a better place.
Thank you.
Why don't we take one question here? Rejoice, how long does it take you to create a content brief? Just like, how long does this process take?
For me, the process definitely takes on a great day, an hour.
1 hour?
On a great day, an hour, because I think maybe for me, I have been doing it for a while, so I'm very much used to the process of competitive research, finding things. And I think what would help is before you start writing the briefs, maybe on an Excel sheet, all the categories you need to fill out, just have those as headers and just be inputting those information. So when the brief comes and you need to do the formatting, you don't have to go back to Google to search. You have that there, just copy and paste it. So that could quicken up the process. But if you're new to it, maybe an hour to 2 hours. I think you can get a brief done. But the more you go at it, the less time it's going to take for you.
Cool. And so, I know you mentioned some tools. SE Ranking recently launched the content marketing section,
Yes.
which includes the content editor. Man, this is basically what you talked about.
Yeah.
We are using the content editor. I'll actually showcase it in my presentation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes, I think with your advice and tools such as SE Ranking Content Editor, you will get the message across to the writer. Last question. How much do you want to restrict a writer in terms of, hey, you have to use these keywords or you have to write like this for SEO? What's your advice on that?
So again, it's not every single section you need to tell them that utilize this keyword. You can still give the writers a bit more free range by letting them know, for example, you can ask them to sort of create the heading titles for each section. They have free reign to do that, but it's up to you. Sometimes when you need it to be a specific way, unfortunately, they don't have that creative agency. But sometimes you can sort of give them. It really down to the companies or clients you work for. I've mostly ever worked with e-commerce and retail. They like fashion brands, beauty brands. So there's a lot more free reign the writers can sort of use and the tone of voice. But if you're more B2B, more technical, I guess the writers kind of are a bit more restricted in terms of this is the information we need. These are the factual stats we need. But it is really down up to you what you think is best. And again, a lot of writers are happy to essentially be told how you want it because they avoid the back and forth and the incorrect workings.